some of the slides, and you'll have a chance to see more of them in the reception later. So I want to welcome you to this service of remembrance and celebration for Charles H. Brotman, better known to all of you as Chuck. Family and friends have come from near and far to honor Chuck and offer support for his beloved wife, Michelle, his daughter, Stephanie, son-in-law, Jeremiah, and granddaughter, Cora. We also welcome those who are unable to be here in person, but who are joining us through the live stream, especially Chuck's mother, Sybil, and his other family members and friends in New York. They will also gather later this weekend for a celebration of Chuck in New York. We come together today in grief, acknowledging our human loss. We come together with gratitude for all the ways that Chuck made a difference in this world and all the people whose lives he touched. There will be tears today, but we hope there will also be a lot of laughter and joy as you share stories and memories of Chuck. After the service, you're invited to join the family in the parlor, which is just next door, for a reception. And may God grant us grace that in this communal sharing of memory and love, we may find healing, peace, and joy. And now I invite Michelle and Stephanie to come forward for the lighting of the candles for a candle ritual. And stay for just a moment. We light this candle as a symbol of the bright, beautiful light of Chuck's life, a life that we remember whole with all its sorrow and its joy. We light this candle as a symbol of the love that we all truly, deeply had for Chuck. Let this light be a symbol of love and relationship that never ends, not even with death. Come into the circle of loss. Come into the circle of memory and hope. Come into the circle of love and forgiveness. Come in that the light of love and healing might arise in your heart. Amen. You may be seated. I invite all who are here and those who are listening online to center your hearts and minds in sacredness. May you tap into the deep roots of your faith or spirituality as we join together in a spirit of prayer. Let us pray. O divine power, we call you by many names, but we know you best as love. We give thanks for the ways you have loved and blessed us through the gift of life. We give thanks especially for Chuck's life and all the ways he blessed others through his life. As we lift up memories of him, we know we cannot do justice to the fullness of his life. But through our shared memory, may we see him more clearly and honor him for all he was to us. You see the heart, and know that Chuck was a man who loved deeply. With the remembrance of his love and the surety of your love, give this family and all of us your comfort and peace. Amen. The family has chosen 3 readings that speak to them of Chuck and of their hope for this time. First, would Mary Grace come forward?
The first reading is by Maya Angelou, and it's called I've Learned. I've learned that whenever I decide something with an open heart, I usually make the right decision. Excuse me. I've learned that even when I have pains, I don't have to be one. I've learned that every day you should reach out and touch someone. People love a warm hug or just a friendly pat on the back. I've learned that I still have a lot to learn. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Thank you.
And now would Michelle Wilson come forward?
This reading is by Anne Lamott, and it's called Dancing with the Limp. You will lose someone you can't live without, and your heart will be badly broken. And the bad news is that you never completely get over the loss of your beloved. But this is also the good news. They live forever in your broken heart that doesn't seal back up. And you will come through. It's like having a broken leg that never heals perfectly, that still hurts when the weather gets cold, but you learn to dance with the limp.
And now would Elaine Waskey come forward?
This reading is by Christina Rosetta. It's called Let Me Go. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not for long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that once we shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the master plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick at heart, go to friends. Go to the friends we know. Laugh at all the things we used to do. Miss me, but let go.
A lot of good friends in this room. A few people have prepared remarks about Chuck. After they speak, there will be an open time of sharing for others who want to offer a brief memory about Chuck that makes you really glad in your heart that he was part of your life. And when that time for open sharing comes, you can come up here to the mic, or if you prefer to stay at your seat, we invite you to stand up and just speak loudly enough there that folks can hear you. So our first speaker is Jean Theobald.
Good afternoon. I'm Jean Theobald. I got this, Chuck. Chuck and Michelle have been in my life, and I in theirs, for almost 40 years. First as a student in their karate class in Millbrook, then as a friend, and now as a family. Chuck was equal parts friend and brother to me, as Michelle is my sister. So, when I first met Chuck, I was very intimidated by him, which he got quite the kick out of. He was very intense. He was very, very serious. He was super smart, and he was a little on the quiet side. But over time, what I found out was that I had him pegged all wrong. Except for the really smart part, he was anything but serious, and he really was not all that quiet either. He was funny, and he was witty, and he was warm, and he was fun to be around. And I admired him very much. What I admired most about Chuck was, despite it all, he played the cards that were dealt him, and he did it with extraordinary grace. He did it with good humor, and he did it with patience, and he did it with kindness. Always, always with kindness. The thing about Chuck was Chuck had the capacity to take sincere joy in the good fortune of others. Nothing made him happier than when something good happened to someone that he loved. It didn't matter what it was, a new job, a promotion, a vacation, finding the perfect pocketbook. That was exactly what it was about for him, right? It didn't matter. If you were happy, he was happy, and you could plainly see it in his smile. So that's what I'll carry always with me about Chuck, and that I hope that we'll all carry together. I hope we can all continue to celebrate the joy, the feeling, the love that we have in each other, the people that we care about, just as he always did. And this will mean nothing to anyone in this room. But Chuck, I found the keys. It was one of those you had to be there. But he was. Thank you.
And now Stephen Case.
We enjoyed many walks, conversations, meals, holidays, games, and even concerts together. Chuck was an educated, funny, open-minded, and a free thinker. I'm a better person for having known him. A day with Chuck. I'd meet Chuck in the cul-de-sac to walk the dogs. And I'd say, "Guten Morgen, Herr Brotman," and he'd say, "Guten Morgen, Herr Case." He loved the German salutations, and he knew a lot of German words. We'd have to be careful because when Piper would see me and the boys, she'd get really excited, and she'd have this propensity to encircle Chuck and wrap him like a long tendril. And I only had to help a couple times because he was really good at staying out of trouble. So we'd walk, and Chuck would never complain about his lot in life to me. He would complain about politics, however, and we had a lot of discussions about the news. And I'd become so frustrated, I'd say, "Chuck, why even bother watch?" And he'd say, "Well, it's our civic duty. We need to stay informed and engaged." And he'd never hesitate to contact his congressman if he needed to. So we'd walk around the neighborhood, meeting folks along the way, many Chuck had introduced me to originally when we moved here, and we'd catch up on the latest. And at one point, I asked Chuck, I said, Chuck, by chance, do you have any RCA plugs? He said, well, I think I do. So the next time I saw him, Chuck had the RCA plugs in hand. And what he didn't tell me, though, was that one day Michelle comes downstairs and Chuck's not there. So she says, well, where's Chuck? So she calls for him and he's down in the basement. So she goes down in the basement and there's Chuck down in the basement in this deep box with all these electronic goods, and he's got cables. And Michelle says, Chuck, what on earth are you doing? And Chuck says, I gotta find the RCA plugs for Stephen. So when we got back to the house from our walk with this incredibly exaggerated enthusiasm, I say, Chuck, I gotta go on a dump run today. I said, it's gonna be great. Are you in? And he says, how could I refuse? It was pure satire. So we built up the excitement on the way, truck loaded, and we get to the dump, and what I'd never noticed before is right at the entrance, there's a sign that says Landfill Park. And what an incredible antithesis, because those two words just don't belong together. Dump and park, landfill and park. So we got so excited, we said, you know, we have to explore this. So after we offloaded, we drove through the park. And in juxtaposition, on the right was the dump, and on the left, this huge landfill. And we're driving down the middle, and I just said, this is fantastic. And Chuck said, yeah, we should have brought sandwiches. So on the other side of the landfill, there's a small parking lot, maybe some swings, and we just wondered if this was a concept that humanity would have to become comfortable with. So then on the way home, we were excited to tell the girls about our adventures. We decided to have Chinese takeout at my house. Chuck would come early, and depending on who'd go get the takeout, we'd make sure that they didn't forget the chopsticks. And we'd sit on the deck, and we watch the birds at the bird feeders, and especially the hummingbirds. And Chuck would say, you know why they hum? Because they don't know the words. And after dinner, we'd enjoy the fortune cookies and share our fortunes. And after lots of laughs and conversation, sometimes Chuck would leave early. So with a flashlight in hand, I'd help him navigate the night, and I'd escort him home. And when we hit the cul-de-sac, we'd rarely pass on an opportunity to look up and identify a constellation, and if we were lucky, catch the International Space Station as it went by. He'd climb up the front steps, turn and say, Auf Wiedersehen, which means until we meet again, and he'd shut the door. I'll miss you, Chuck.
So this is a time for any of you who have memories, stories that you want to share to come and offer that. The funny, the serious, the profane, it's all welcome. So let me open the floor. And what is your name?
Brookshire McDonald.
This is Brookshire McDonald. I'm saying that for the camera. Yeah.
Michelle, she might not want me telling this, but too late now. I met Michelle through the breast cancer support group, and through Michelle, I met Chuck. She offered to send him to my house to fix the computer more than once, maybe more than 5 times. And somehow I would always break it again. So I finally gave the thing away. I have an iPad now. Chuck's is with this year after the COVID lifted, I would go to their house and the three of us would play upward. And we had some really nice times there. He would always beat me, but it was a lot of fun. So they're my special memories of Chuck.
I've known Chuck since second grade. Good friend. Wow. Thank you. Nice one.
I'm Jackie Han, and I met Chuck through Joanna, his sister, who I was in New York. She was an adult student where I was teaching at the Raleigh Movement Center, and when I told her that I was moving, or I had moved, because I don't remember the time exactly, and that I did Raleigh work, she said, "Oh, you've got to meet my brother." So Joanna set us up. I don't know how many years I saw Chuck fairly regularly. It was always a gift. But the important thing is that Chuck made friends with Andrea, who was in a wheelchair. And he looked so forward, because I would see her after Chuck, and he looked so forward to seeing her. And they had such a nice rapport that when Chuck passed, I called Andrea. And she was upset when we were all losing him, but she said, he was the kindest person. And I'm not quite sure why we connected so strongly as we did. So she said, "Please tell Michelle how much he meant to me." So, and thank you, Joanna.
My name is Stacy Horowitz, and I've been a neighbor with Chuck and Michelle for 30 years, since they moved in their home. And I just wanted to say he was a breath of fresh air. And I always look forward to seeing him when he was walking the dog, whichever one it might have been. And we're going to miss him. So, love to you guys.
Well, my name is Mike Long. Chuck was my brother-in-law. The best ever. Probably shouldn't talk about it. My sister Michelle certainly want to say our condolences. But Chuck was one of these guys who always had smiles, no matter what happened. You know, he was dealt with a bad hand for anything, but it didn't bother him. He would just keep plugging along and plugging along and plugging along. But I was really glad to see the pictures of the karate outfits. And that's where my sister and Chuck met, was in my little sister's, what, 5 foot maybe? And she's breaking boards, and she's breaking people, and she's a, you know, black belt in karate. And Chuck's, what, 3rd degree, I think he got to? Both got it at the same time. Yeah, they both got 3rd degree black belts at the same time. And that was my first introduction to Chuck, you know? And he just did a lot of wonderful things. And as I think someone said, he's been an inspiration to all of us.
Last person, anyone?
Yes.
I'm Lisa McKinley. I was Chuck's personal trainer for 21 years. It was pretty close. I wanted to tell Stephanie about a memory that's pretty poignant to me. When I was working with Chuck before the wedding, he came to me and he said, "I just need to be sure I can walk down the aisle with Stephanie really well." And he worked for 6 weeks to just walk down the aisle with her. So that was really special. And he was so funny and punny, as we all know. But we used to joke all the time about writing a book, and he'd say he could write a book about his life. And when I went to the hospital to see him before he died, he said, "Chuck, Half-Life, it never came out." That was the name of his book.
Thank you for sharing, and I know that the stories and the memories will continue as you spend time with Michelle and Stephanie. So during the past week, as we prepared for today's service, I've been honored to spend time with Chuck's wife and daughter, Michelle and Stephanie, with Michelle's college friend, Mary Grace, and their neighbor, Stephen, and Chuck's personal trainer, Tisa. They shared many memories with me about Chuck, and I got to hear more of your stories today. I am truly, truly sorry that I never got to meet this wonderful man. He was clearly an extraordinary person who lived a rich, full life through health challenges that would have turned a lesser man bitter. Born in New York, Chuck's intelligence was evident at a young age. As you've read in his obituary, he won many science awards in high school. In college, he earned a bachelor's degree in computer, electrical, and systems engineering, and later a master's degree in electrical engineering. Chuck had a successful and promising career at IBM in New York. In his 20s, he began to pursue a deep interest in martial arts, as you have heard. He met Michelle in a Taekwondo studio where he had just started as a white belt student. Everybody begins with white, right? Michelle was in that class, and she was not only beautiful, but a more advanced brown belt, very appealing. They found connection on and off the mat. And over the next several years, they worked together to earn their third-degree black belts, spending 4 to 5 nights a week practicing various martial arts. After being together for 5 years, they were married in 1986. And they continued their interest in martial arts and developed their meditation practice with a Kundalini yoga group in their home, including one of the teachers from India who came and spent time teaching in their home. They also shared a deep interest in music, with Chuck playing guitar and piano, and Michelle tuning pianos and singing. In 1993, they moved to North Carolina for Chuck to pursue new career opportunities through IBM. He continued to pursue martial arts in Raleigh. Michelle and Chuck welcomed Stephanie into their family a year or two, I think, after you moved here, along with assorted pets that changed over the years. It was an absolute shock to everyone when this fit, active man had a massive stroke in 1996. Michelle was told by the doctors that Chuck would never walk or talk again. This was simply not acceptable. Michelle went to work full-time on Chuck's behalf, and she is a force of nature as well as Chuck. They pursued both traditional and alternative treatments. Michelle found an acupuncturist and herbalist who treated Chuck for over 2 years. They hired Tisa, who worked with Chuck several times a week, as she said, for 21 years. Chuck worked hard, and he was willing to try anything to get better. His physicians were absolutely amazed at the abilities he regained and that he maintained them over many years, even after his heart attack. Even more amazing than his physical efforts to recover, Chuck's attitude of positivity and humor were inspiring to everyone he met. He never complained. He just got on with making the most of his life. He continued to study computer science, coding, and engineering. His home library is filled with contemporary books in his field. He was not left behind. He was up on the newest technology. Some of Chuck's other interests included geography, biology, astronomy, philosophy, psychology, political science, religion, morphology, history, and music. And I don't know that I've covered them all, but they were rattling off all these interests. And he, in the time that he had, Chuck expanded his mind and he had deep curiosity. Michelle said Chuck was so smart, he never forgot anything he learned except his next PT appointment. So there was that, some short-term forgetfulness, but deep, deep smarts and intelligence. His friend Stephen said Chuck could talk with intelligence and insight about almost anything and then would crack you up with a pun, a bad pun, no less, or a joke. And he loved to send everybody little email things of funny videos and clips and stories that he found. Tisa's husband, Herb, who was in Chuck's book club, said Chuck would listen attentively as other people commented on the book of the month. He'd be very quiet listening, and then he would come out with the most interesting and profound comments of anyone in the group. During Chuck's recent illness, his dear friend Stevie Heller sent Michelle something to read to him. Hi, Michelle. Please read this to Chuck, even if he's asleep. As you know, Chuck, constants are important. Pi is about 3.14159, and E is about 2.718281828. And Avogadro's number is about 6.22 times 10 to the 23rd power. You know that, right? And of course, E to the I times pi plus 1 equals 0. One equation with the 5 most important constants. You know what else is a constant? Our friendship, which is forever. You are and will always be a constant reminder of intellect, caring, and a bad sense of humor, much like my own. Please accept all my best wishes for a full and speedy recovery. And as you know, Chuck understood that equation. With everything that happened to him, Chuck never lost his intelligence, curiosity, capacity for friendship, or contagious, joyful laugh. And that was a gift. Though life was often difficult, he and Michelle always found something to laugh about. They embodied what it means to commit to one another for better or worse through their 36 years of marriage. Mary Grace said they had the best marriage of anyone she knows, filled with respect, dignity, compassion, and love. Chuck and Michelle's life was immeasurably enriched by the birth of their granddaughter, Cora, who spent most days with Grandma and Papa. Stephanie is deeply sad that Papa won't get to watch Cora grow up, but she will share the stories and the pictures and remind Cora every day how much Papa loves her. None of us really gets over the loss of a loved one, but we can learn to make a space within us where the love and the ache reside together. Your grief is a reflection of the love you have for Chuck, and it is sacred. If you can hold them together and tend the love and the pain as a precious gift, the sharpness will soften and the sadness will transform into gratitude for the relationship and even greater love. May this assurance give you courage to walk in this way in a in the world in a way that truly honors Chuck. Find the humor and the joy in each day. Be an encourager of others. Make the best of the opportunities you are given and challenge yourself to grow. Chuck never stopped growing. Live out your values. Be adventurous and see as much of the world as you can. Take care of animals and children, the disabled and the elderly. Open your hearts to give and receive love. Chuck did this, and we trust that as he loved, so he is loved, now and eternally. Join me now in a moment of silence as we remember and give thanks for Chuck. Let us pray. O divine power, for all that Chuck has given us to make us what we are, for that of him which lives and grows in each of us, in memory and in love, we give thanks. Comfort us and give us courage to face the future unafraid. Keep tender and true the love in which we hold one another. May things unseen and eternal grow more real for us, more full of meaning, that in our living and dying, you may be our peace, and our lives may be a blessing of love for others. Amen. On behalf of Chuck's family, I thank you for coming, for sharing your stories and memories of him, and for all the ways you have shown support to his family. After the closing music, you are invited to join the family for a reception in the parlor where the celebration of Chuck's life will continue. I offer this final blessing. Chuck, with courage to face life's unpredictability and challenges with positivity and hope, we will remember you. With authentic presence to those we meet, we will remember you. With curiosity about everything, we will remember you. With bad puns and a never-failing sense of humor, we will remember you. With tenderness toward animals and children, we will remember you. In hearts full of love, we will remember you until we meet again. And I want to end the service with this introduction to the Moldau song that we'll be playing. This is a song that Chuck's mother, Sybil, played for him as a child to help him fall asleep. Michelle continued the tradition by playing the Moldau while getting Chuck ready for bed every night. And she did this for the last 6 months of his life. So this was so much a daily part of Chuck. Then he would say, "Alexa, ocean sounds," a goodnight kiss, and he was off to sleep. Rest well, Chuck.